For years, Star Wars fans have been blaming Kathleen Kennedy for all of the mess of Disney Star Wars. Well, the truth is coming out. It's not her fault. It's his. There are some of you that are already going to say,
I know this. I've seen this. I've been aware that Dave Filoni is possibly the biggest problem at Lucasfilm when it comes to Star Wars than any other creator.
A bigger problem than Leslie Headland in The Acolyte, a bigger problem than what happened with the sequel trilogy. Dave Filoni is at fault for all of it. And a new article that has surfaced just this week confirms that you can no longer sit by the wayside and say Dave Filoni is going to save Star Wars, because he is not. Dave is a former storyboard artist who George Lucas took under his wing and gave a bunch of power to. So maybe we can blame George for this one, but we're not going to go there right now. All you have to do is step back and look at the projects that have been created underneath this vice president and chief creative officer. Dave Filoni is creator, writer, and executive producer on the critically acclaimed series Ahsoka. So he gets all of the credit for Ahsoka. He was the executive producer and episodic director and writer on the Emmy award-winning series The Mandalorian, which we saw got progressively worse, especially season 3 was absolutely a disaster. As well as the spin-off series Book of Boba Fett. Don't get me started. Filoni is the creator and executive producer of the animated Star Wars The Bad Batch and Tales of the Jedi. He's also executive producing the upcoming Star Wars series Skeleton Crew. And that's where we start to find out and we start to see that Dave Filoni is the one that's really in charge. Dave Filoni is the one who's making decisions. And it's Dave Filoni that hasn't stopped any of the mess that we saw with The Acolyte. Now, this isn't the first time that I've said this, but I'm going to be honest. I was someone who put my hope and trust in Dave, who, when everything was going horribly with the sequel trilogy and Mandalorian came onto the scene, it was Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, and I was sitting there going, yes, this is what we need. And then they decided to do an Ahsoka show that I was so psyched about, because Thrawn is one of my favorite characters of all time in the Star Wars universe. And that show, oh man, I think I got my hopes way too high for that show, because the pacing, the writing, the characters, other than Shin, what was his name? See, it's forgettable. Other than Shin and Balin, all those other characters I thought were handled horribly, especially Ezra and Sabine and all of that mess. That show was so bad. That's what started to open my eyes. Now, I know there's some of you that are probably shouting at your phones as you're watching this going, I've been saying this for years, and for you, I apologize. I didn't listen. I ignored you. I didn't want it to be true. I wanted, like everybody else, just to blame Kathleen Kennedy. I wanted to be able to hang it all on her. That way we can move on from Kathleen and get good Star Wars again. But now we're seeing, with some of the information that's coming out about Skeleton Crew specifically, that this really is a Dave Filoni problem. What do I mean by that? Here it is. Entertainment Weekly just had an article come out, and it says this: Star Wars Skeleton Crew I can't read. Let me try that again. Star Wars Skeleton Crew exclusive photos reveal Jaleel White as a space pirate. Put that all aside. I don't care. You're not going to get me to watch a show with member berries. I don't care that Urkel is a pirate, and I don't think that you care that he is or not. I don't love the fact that they're trying to play this up. Actually, it says to me that you don't have anything to communicate about this show because you're trying to appeal to the fact that Jaleel White is in it. How did this go with The Acolyte? How did this go? Let's remember. Let's remember what was the whole push about The Acolyte. that Trinity from the Matrix, Carrie-Anne Moss, was going to be in The Acolyte. This brings real star power. And she dies in the first 5 minutes and is barely even involved in the show. We're not falling for it. No one is falling for this. But this isn't what we want to talk about. That's another video for another time. You can go read this article. I'll throw a link down in the description below. And while you're down there, if you check it out, hit that like button on the way. But we're going to skip past all of this. I don't care about any of it. Here it is. Here's what I want us to see today, what I want to bring to your attention, because this right here shows exactly what so many of you have been saying, and it solidifies it. Because even when Acolyte came out, and I said, it's on Dave. This is on Dave. And there were still people that are going, nah, it's on Leslie Headland. It's on Kathleen Kennedy. No, this is all on Dave Filoni. Here's what it says. Finding the sweet spot was something Watts and Ford were looking to do for the series as a whole, as they created an entirely new world within the already pre-existing one of Star Wars, a world with certain rules that can't be broken. What's great about working at Lucasfilm is that they'll let you know if you've gone outside the boundaries, Watts says. Dave Filoni is our goalkeeper. Now, you may not know this about me. I'm a goalie. I played goalie lacrosse all through high school and in college, and I enjoy playing ice hockey goalie today. So if you're going to use the term goalkeeper to describe what Dave is supposed to do, and then these are the types of shows that get past him, man, you need to be able to say, we need a new goalie. You are fired and we are moving on. But people aren't going to do that. Why? Because Dave is supposed to be the savior. Dave is supposed to be the one. Yet he keeps just putting his own stuff into shows just like Leslie Headland. He just puts wolves in Star Wars because he thinks they're cool. That's why he's literally always wearing like a wolf t-shirt. Now, don't get me wrong. I have nothing against wolves. But Star Wars is not meant to be your own little pet project where you put your stuff into it that you like. When are we going to start asking the question, does this actually work for the show, for the story, for the universe of Star Wars, versus just saying, I like it, so I'm going to make it work. I'm going to put it in there. And that's what Dave Filoni does. He does it throughout the Clone Wars. He does it in Rebels. And he did it in Ahsoka, and it's still happening in shows today. So Dave is the goalkeeper, but it's not all. Listen what else he writes. Watts continues, and he says, and Watts means that literally of the creative visionary overseeing Star Wars streaming galaxy, he actually is a great hockey player, but he's also a figurative goalkeeper. So, pause. Does Dave Filoni play hockey? Like, does he actually play hockey? I want to know. I'm going to go try to find this out. If there is, I'm going to play highlights right now. If not, you know I didn't find anything.
Number 36, Dave Filoni.
Big chance for Charles Bell on the right wing circle. We're coming down. He puts the shot on, but Filoni, the force was with him on that one.
I'm probably not going to find anything. So, back anyway. We will come up with ideas of things that we like. And then he'll be like, actually, maybe it's this. Or, oh, we already did something like that somewhere else. And you always end up with a bunch of other episodes of Star Wars to go watch and things to go read. And it's good. You feel like you can safely explore things creatively without making some huge canonical mistake. What? You're not going to make a canonical mistake. Oh, kind of like the entire show of Acolyte was just one jumbled canonical mistake, getting everything wrong about the 1,000 years of peace. There was so much discontinuity in the Acolyte. There's been so much discontinuity in the book of Boba Fett, in Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, to say that Dave is the one who's making sure that we don't go off the rails canonically, that's a joke. If this is true, if it's all down to just Dave, first off, it's a problem that it's one person. It should not be. Even the best expert in anything can miss stuff. There should be a group of people who are guarding the canon. I'm ranting. Sorry. This wasn't meant to be a big rant video, but yeah, here we are. Welcome. Welcome to Force Fandom for my therapy of how frustrated I am with Star Wars at times. That's what this is. Let's just be honest. If Dave Filoni is the one who truly is in charge, who is the chief creative officer, there needs to be more people than just him watching over these shows and making sure they stay on track. Because I'm not the only one, and you're not the only one who's seen these mistakes. Everyone sees these things except Dave, which is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It continues. Adds forward, he gets both sides of that because he did that mentoring under George Lucas. So he gets that thing of, I want to make a whole new kind of Jedi. And then someone being like, okay, hold on. A lot of people have thought about this. Let's do it the right way. And it's so helpful. This whole paragraph, like if all it had said, if this entire article had just been a new kind of Jedi and it had just been about Jude Law's character, I'd be okay. I'm like, okay, I'm interested. I'm still going to watch. You're going to get me for the first few episodes because I want to see and I want to let you know if it's worth your time. But now that it is being made clear that the same person who has been over things like the Book of Boba Fett and Ahsoka and who was the chief creative officer during the production and creation of The Acolyte is the same one who's goalkeeping, gatekeeping, whatever you want to call it, what we can and can't do with Jedi in the Star Wars universe, and he's still Dave Filoni, it's all Dave Filoni, I'm out. Because the way that the Jedi were handled in The Acolyte was a complete disaster. Absolute disaster. There is no possible way, because, and I'm not here to go through that show. I want to move on from The Acolyte. But if we're looking back and saying the same person who's gatekeeping and helping make sure everything sticks in line is the same one who allowed them to do that to the Jedi and make the Jedi all just morally gray, again, changing the understanding of what balance of the Force even is, throwing this line in, Entertainment Weekly adds it in, it's in parentheticals, he didn't say this, and he gets both sides of that because he did that. George Lucas, like, why is this in parentheticals? What's the full quote? And how much traction are we going to get this mentoring under George Lucas? George Lucas has already said that the first 6 films are his. Everything else is someone else's. So just because Dave Filoni mentored under George Lucas doesn't mean anything. Look at sports. We talk about this all the time in sports. People that mentored under such and such a coach, and then he gets a job of their own. And what do? They stink. Just because someone mentored under Bill Belichick doesn't mean they're a good head coach. And we've seen that. And just because someone worked under George Lucas doesn't mean they can do what George Lucas does. That's how Kathleen Kennedy got the job that she has. There is no line of thought left that can sit back and be excited about what's being made and produced by Disney. Even Jon Favreau, who I would still say, at least out of everyone there, I have the most trust in, though that trust was really shot out of the water after Mando Season 3. So we're going to see. We're going to see what happens with this new kind of Jedi. Honestly, probably all that's going to be is what? A Han Solo Jedi. That's probably what it's going to be. And it's just going to be like, okay, whatever. Well, it's not that big a deal. But they've got nothing else to say. And I don't know, maybe the show isn't for me. Maybe the show is geared more toward kids. But even looking at it, like I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. They're too young for this show. This show is far past them in terms of what they would enjoy or what is even age appropriate for them to be watching. So is this for teenagers? I feel like teenagers would never want to watch this show. Who is this for? I don't know. I have no idea who this is for. But they're still going to put it out 9 p.m. December 3rd. I don't know. We'll see what happens December 3rd. But hey, we get Jaleel White. Jaleel White, guys. Urkel's in Star Wars. You got to watch. All you 90s kids. All you 90s kids who love Family Matters. Come on. Come watch this. We're going to hype up the nostalgia member berries. It's not working, guys. It's not working. And it's not Kathleen's fault. This one is not on her. This is Dave Filoni's fault. If you want to see my other videos where I've talked about my frustrations with Dave Filoni, you can click right here. Guys, thanks for being here. Leave a like on your way out. Remember, the Force will be with you always.